Welcome, everybody, to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. We have a fantastic show coming up for you tonight. Elly Molina is with us. Coming up next. Welcome, everybody, to Edge of the Rabbit Hole. I'm author and researcher Mike Ricksecker. With me, as always, my co-hostess, Victoria Monday, and down in the chat room, Alina, moderating the chat. We have a fantastic episode coming up for you tonight. We have international intuitive advisor and Amazon best-selling author Elly Molina with us this evening. She's also the founder of Psi-Kids Academy, a magical place for children and adults. So, Elly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Mike and Victoria. Thank you.
Oh, it's
Absolutely.
Nice to meet you.
Yeah, absolutely nice to meet you. And so we're going to start. We have a lot of different topics we can cover with you this evening, which is great to have such a versatile guest. But I want to start by talking about psychic kids. This is something that a lot of people are interested in. Kids that have psychic abilities. There's been television shows on the subject. So please give us a little bit of background about psychic children and the work you've been doing.
All right. Thanks, Mike. So I'm just going to start with the kids that I work with are not like TV children. They are the kids that you find in your home and in my home and in public schools. And they're the kids in the playground. There's nothing unusual about them. They are not indigo children. They are not star seeds. These are just regular kids who are intuitive and who have been trained to be even more intuitive than the average child because they're using part of their brains that other people don't use. And so these children they're all naturally intuitive, just as we are. However, their skills are developed and taught. So what that means is that we're all psychic, but some of us are trained, just like we can all play piano. Some of us are trained to play better than others. And that's what it is with psychic ability. It's a training. That's the same thing with remote viewing. These are trained skills. So when children come and they want their parents bring them to the set, we want to develop our kids' psychic abilities. Well, that's what we do. We start with telepathic exercise. Actually, we start with focus and concentration. And what that looks like is I teach children as early as 3 years old to sit quietly and tuck away their body and not move. And it begins with about 10 seconds, and then it extends and it extends. And even adults, if I asked you now, could you just sit quietly, not move your body, do not itch and twitch and don't move, and let's see how long we can do this. Maybe after about a minute or 2 minutes, all of a sudden we're going to want to itch and move. And now the thing is, though, that with training, we can do this for hours, but that's with training. And the kids can do this for easily 20 minutes without moving. And that's what it takes to get into the real focus work. If a child is going to do, I'm jumping ahead now, but if a child is going to do telekinesis, which is moving objects with their mind or with energy like that, they have to be able to get into that zone of not moving and focused concentration for at least 20 minutes. So again, it's training. And it's not like on TV where the child wakes up and their eyes are glazed over and they just start shooting out fireballs. No, this is consciousness. This is awareness. These are conversations. It begins with a belief system and acceptance that this is real, that we can all do this. And it is, again, conscious awareness, a lot of focus, intentionality, and a willingness to want to do this work.
That's absolutely fascinating. Now, are these children that come to you and their parents present them to you, are these children that are already showing signs of some sort of psychic ability? Because a lot of people will say that children, when they're born into the world, they still have that connection to the spiritual realm, and so therefore are more inclined at a younger age to have those psychic abilities.
So I'm going to look at it from the brainwave point of view and not the spiritual connection. We're looking at this very scientifically. Children, their brains are they're in the alpha state when they're about 3 years old, 4 years old. They go into alpha. Alpha is a very reduced brainwave state. When we're in the alpha state to get into alpha as an adult, we have to meditate. Children are naturally there. So imagination rules. This is where imagination rules. And that's why kids love to imagine and they're really good at it. And the veils, I call it the veils. Let's use that term, right? So these veils, these judgments, the brain has not sped up. So they are able to perceive things that we cannot see unless we are either intentionally meditating and going into this focused zone. We don't have that ability anymore, really, and when we're in beta. So when the kids are in that alpha state, it's much easier for them to telepathically pick up somebody else's thoughts, see again over time, distance and space with remotely. Basically, that's a form of remote viewing. And all of these talents, or what we call talents and psychic abilities, they're just present. They just need to be explored, and there needs to be a little bit of training so they can understand what it is that they're doing so that it's not strange for them. But
Oh, that's go ahead, Victoria.
Do you teach remote viewing and telekinetic abilities?
I do. Not right. Yes, I do, as a matter of fact. So right now I'm not teaching anyone in a live scene. I was teaching during the COVID time, during the height of COVID. I was doing online psychic development for adults and their children. And so then that was fun. And then we were doing some spoon bending, but the kids didn't do the spoon bending. It was just the adults. So we had some spoon bending going on during that time also. And the results that the kids were producing were just absolutely amazing. So these were adults, parents who were interested in remote viewing. They were interested in it themselves. And so they wanted to have the skill for themselves, and then they wanted to have this skill for their children. So the kids were open. They came, we did remote viewing. We did it via Zoom. Just think about that. When you think about it, it doesn't seem that it could make logical sense. But then again, when we're working with our other abilities, there is no boundary. Consciousness travels across time, space, distance. It's not linear. And so I could put an image of an envelope or an image of a treasure chest that I like to use with kids on the screen, and then tell them, go ahead, show me, describe to me what's inside. Don't label it, describe what it is. And then they would have this uncanny accuracy, just unbelievable. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Right. And it's enough so that it's not even like, it's coincidence. Now it's really way too interesting and fascinating to be coincidence.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. So are you putting exercises together where parents and children can work together and essentially learn together?
Yes, I am. Thank you for asking. So
Well,
That's great.
mothers always know what's going on. So
well, I'm just going to share with you if you're all right with that.
Sure, go right ahead.
I've developed an online program, and it is available, and anybody can find it. We just have to go to Psi-Kids, Elly Molina, so ellymolina.com. And then once you're on my website, you go look at Psi-Kids, and it'll take you right, there you go, Psi-Kids Academy.
There it is.
There it is. And it will take you right to the online course for adults and children. And this is something that the kids can do with their parents. And if anybody's interested, go look at my Instagram account and you'll see, I don't think she's going to mind that I'm sharing it, young Wanda from WandaVision and her mom and her brother are on my Instagram account, and they're taking my course, and they're remote viewing and having a heck of a time doing it and a lot of fun.
Oh, it's fantastic.
So can we just say we have kids and just go do it?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
So
Yeah, they're over there.
No, this is not just for children. This is for the kid within each of us. This is an easy.
I got that covered.
I've got adults taking this program also. It's easy. It's there for kids and adults, but it's also for the kid in us. So really, one does not need to be a child or have children to do this program.
Okay. I'm there. Maybe checking that out.
Yeah. You're going to sign up.
I'll bring a cat or something, you know.
No, you don't need to. You're by yourself. It's one on.
Sometimes.
Yeah. No, the program is one-on-one. Nobody's going to see what you're doing. You're doing this by yourself, you know, with instruction, with video
Nice.
and audio instruction. Mm-hmm.
I could have used that about 20 years ago. Like, what are you doing up there?
Well,
I
I
know
mean,
what
she's
you're
an
doing.
adult daughter now, but you guys
It's
could
even
still do it
worse.
together.
But
Why is the rub lower?
but you've got telepathy with her. You know that. You know that's there. We
Yeah.
have telepathy with one another. You know,
Yeah.
so we just need to pay attention to it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it bugs her when I was like, "What? Are you okay?" She's like, "Yeah, I'm fine."
So let me ask you this, Elly, since you were talking earlier about, studying, brain waves and activity and things like that. Are you also doing, research and exercises with dreams?
Yes. It goes together. So again, I do a lot of dream work, and I do the dream work with my clients, and I also do the dream work with children. And then occasionally I will run a dream workshop, and there will be a dream workshop on my Psi-Kids Academy in a few weeks. So it's kind of telepathically funny that you would mention it right now, okay, because it's actually developed. It just needs to get uploaded onto the site.
Great.
And I do a lot of work with dreams, because dreams, as you may know, it helps us to access the subconscious mind. That's how we get in there.
Well, let me ask you this, if we're going to go down the road of dreams, because it's always a fascinating subject for me, because I will on occasion have some sort of dream premonition where it might be a couple of months down the road, it might be a couple of years down the road, but something that I dreamt absolutely comes true, down to the detail, like the location and all of that. So my question then is, because, like I said, it might be a couple months or a couple years down the road, is there a way to figure out and determine by maybe examining the dream or what have you to know when that may actually occur?
I don't know. I don't have an answer
Okay.
to that. Since time, we know, is not linear like this,
Mhm.
so it's really difficult to say, yeah, that's going to happen in 2 years. I mean, here's the thing, though. If we start programming ourselves, remember, the subconscious is so powerful that if you say to yourself, you know what, this dream that I had, in 2 years, it's going to come to fruition, then through those really strange ways that the brain works, and that, all of a sudden 2 years down the line, it's going to happen. Think about your goals that you create for yourself, these sheets that we write, and then we tuck them away, and then we pull them out a few years later, and to the dot, it's like check, 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 check. Because what happens is the brain, the subconscious reticular activating system, it moves towards the direction again. It heads out that way. So we need to always be careful and mindful of what we put out to the universe, both mentally and, psychically and verbally. So to answer his question, yes, he can have these premonitions and, prophecies in his dream state, but just we don't know the timing on that.
Well, what about
Okay.
recurring dreams? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you went away. Your picture's gone.
Yeah, I'm back. Can you hear me?
Oh, this is very Sci-Fi Channel. Okay, now
Cool. So here's
Yeah, I'm having connection issues. Yeah.
this is
You know
my interpretation.
Mercury. No, I have these recurring dreams, and like each night I get a little bit deeper and I can see a little bit more, but my gosh, it's taking forever. Is there a shortcut?
I don't know. I think the best way to do it is to actually analyze it. There are many different methods of analyzing dreams. I have one that I use from the Edgar Cayce Institute, where I learned how to do dream analysis from Dr. Henry Reed. But the subconscious will give you a recurring dream if it needs to send you a message. So here's the thing, Victoria, there's a message in there that you need to pay attention to. You're not hearing it, and that's why it's going to keep coming until you get it.
Well, it's a message of something I know I need to do. And I've now met two people who I know are going to be part of it. But when I mentioned it to one of them, he went, that's never going to happen. And the other one's kind of off in his own world. But I'll have to tell you off camera. I think you might be part of it too. Mike's out because he's flickering. So he's in another dimension.
Can you at least hear me though?
Yeah, we see you. I see you.
Okay. Yeah, because it's doing weird stuff. I've had some connection issues. Well, before the show, my computer completely blue screen, so I'm having issues right now.
You're flickering. That's
but
all.
You can hear me just fine.
Yeah.
It's a glitch. It's a glitch in the matrix.
Glitch in the matrix.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this then, because I completely agree that time is not linear, that past, present, future are all happening at the same time. So when we have this dream of something that ends up coming true down the road, are we connecting to that moment, almost like getting a window into that point in time, like as if it's happening right then and there?
Probably could be. I mean, I analyze dreams in terms of their interpretations. I don't have the answer to that, but it sounds very plausible that we're getting a glimpse of something. We're seeing something that is coming down in the future, and we just have to pay attention to these things.
Okay.
I mean, what
are you thinking, Victoria?
I'm thinking about my dream.
Oh, okay.
I'm like, it's pushing me to small town Texas somewhere, like central, like where your son is, kind of out that way.
I had a dream about 2 years ago, and sometimes the really, really cool ones, I write them down. The other ones I just forget. But I had this dream, it was about 2 years ago, and I wrote it down in detail. And I started using a technique that Emmett Fox, I'm not sure if you know who he is. And
oh, yes. Yeah.
Okay. So Emmett Fox talks about using the golden key. And so in my dream, which was 2 years down the road, before I had come into contact with Emmett Fox's golden key. Now, again, did my subconscious know about the golden key? Because I was familiar with Emmett's work, but I don't have any conscious recollection about the golden key. So I had a dream that I was going to be given a golden key, and this dream was going to be very instrumental in my everyday life. So 2 years later, I find this dream in my journal, and I've been working with Emmett Fox's golden key, and I've been teaching the golden key to my clients, and it has been extremely instrumental and making a profound difference in everyone's life who's golden keying right now.
Okay. So I know where I need to end up, but I don't know quite how to get there.
Yeah. Well,
so that's the
it's always the trick, right?
It always boils down to money. I need like $8 million to get up. No, just kidding. A nice little windfall would be nice,
Well, here's the thing, Victoria, in the quantum world, when we take out the word, how can I have that? And we just start to, and this is not just law of attraction kind of, let me visualize this. There are actually techniques, only I can't go into them right now. There are techniques that will pretty much part the seas. Okay. They're using language, using mental abilities where, hey, I don't have that 8 million right now, but there are ways to get it. But first of all, your belief system has to be intact, because you can ask for 8 million, but if you don't believe that you can have that 8 million, then that 8 million is not coming to you. I mean, I've had clients who brought in $5 million just like that basically out of nowhere. Okay. And grants coming in, $500,000 in a grant money, just again, out of nowhere. But again, you have to, one must be ready for that amount. I do believe that's also how it works with the lottery. Even though they say that lottery winners, for the most part, then lose all their money if they don't have that money programming. But I wonder, this is just an inquiry that I have, that I talk to myself about, is that what kind of work do they do mentally in their self-talk and in their prayers for either years or months before they actually hit that lottery?
That's a good question.
Yeah. It's kind of like going down the yellow brick road for me personally, because I keep meeting characters. I'm like, oh, okay, you play a part, So we're not there yet. We're not in the Emerald City, but I know you play a part. So I don't know. Do y'all do that too? Do you meet people you're supposed to journey on with?
Absolutely. So just a little aside, when I saw Mike's website, okay, first thing I wanted to do was I want to travel. Okay. First thing that came to my mind is I want to go travel.
Yeah, we
me
have
all.
some trips coming up. Well, you asked about Göbekli Tepe, which is not one coming up, but
Ooh.
down the road, we're definitely going to go there. So we'll work that out one of
Oh,
these days. But
get
I've
one of
got a
those
strong
Göbekli Tepe.
I've got a strong pull to that place,
Mhm.
even though I've never been there, and I've been researching it. And I was even I've been looking for people to tell me more aside from YouTube,
Yeah.
and Gaia. I've just been looking for people who, who's been there, what have they seen, what was it like. So then I started following the archaeologist. He's no longer alive, Klaus Schmidt. So I was listening
Oh,
to
yeah.
a lot of listening to what he had to say about Göbekli Tepe.
Yeah, because he's the one that actually started unearthing it. So,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
and it's a shame that he passed away, which was just very shocking when it happened.
Right. Mhm.
So it was
So
part of the hollowed earth, huh?
yeah, we have some questions here out of the chat. So this is from Sarah Youssef. She asks, children are often indoctrinated within certain psychological and mental constructs. How can someone encourage and nurture extrasensory abilities and connections?
And that's a fabulous question, Sarah. So this is why I work with parents and children, because the parents have to be on board. It starts in the conversation. The parents have to be able to nurture and provide an environment, a linguistic environment for this work to continue. Otherwise, you're going to get people saying, be quiet, sit down, it's your imagination, that's nonsense, that's the work of the devil, or conversations like that. Whereas the parents that I work with have a very conscious awareness. And so that conversation is really carried on at home. Emotional intelligence is taught. And I teach that also in my programs. So my program is not just about the phenomena. It's not just about, can I see across time, distance, and space? Can I bend a spoon? It is not the phenomena. What I'm looking to develop in my programs is conscious awareness, intuitive heart, meaning the idea that we are all connected. So therefore, this kindness has to be present among children. And I teach that. I teach responding rather than reacting. Again, emotional intelligence, consciousness, conscious awareness. And it's part of it. It's not the phenomena, but the phenomena allows the children to understand how powerful they are.
Yeah, that's fantastic, because so many times, especially in our past, I think people are becoming a little bit more open to it these days, but so many times in our past where children would be displaying certain abilities or have certain questions, or maybe they saw something, and you would have their parents or somebody very close to them just
Mhm, mhm.
yeah, they would say, no, that's not real, it's in your head, whatever it was, and discourage those abilities. So that's wonderful that you're teaching that encouragement.
And the other thing, now, in my book, I wrote a book. It's called Children Who Know How to Know. And in my book, it really talks about what parents can do to foster this intuitive ability. So, for example, a lot of times parents are having problems. Maybe they're having problems at home, and they're looking to protect. They think they're protecting there it is.
There it
Thank you for showing
Boom.
that.
You're welcome.
So they're looking to protect their children, and then they lie. Okay, like there's a problem in the house, and the kid feels it. The child senses it. They don't know they're frightened. They want to know what's going on, and they're intuitively connected to there's a problem here. And then they go to and ask a parent, "Hey, what's going on? Everything okay?" And the parents will say, "Yes, everything is fine. Don't worry about it." And right there, what happens is our intuition, and I say our because we're all in that boat at one time when we're really young, intuition is thwarted. We don't trust it any longer. And then we grow up with this not trusting our intuition because we were trained in childhood not to trust it by well-meaning and well-intentioned adults.
See,
Whereas
that's the way
Yeah, what I say in the book, for example, is, you know what, if a parent is going through divorce, rather than lie to your child to protect them from what they think they cannot understand, use words. Use words that a child can relate to, and speak to the child directly. We're going through some problems. It has nothing to do with you. You are safe. That's all the kid wants to know anyway. You're safe and you're loved. So bottom line, no big story. You're safe, you're loved, we love you, you're safe, and everything will work out. That's it. And the kid is now validated and says, wow, you know what? My intuition was right. I knew my parents were going through some difficulties. I may not understand them, but now I don't have to create some kind of wild story about it, which then stays with us when we're adults. Okay. And then we foster that insane belief that we made up as a young child.
Yeah, that's absolutely fantastic. Go ahead, Victoria.
That's the way my mother was. She's like, oh, you that's just your imagination.
Mm-hmm.
And things that I would pick up on would actually happen. So I've learned to, I guess, closet it, basically, keep it as an inner little secret.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah. Well, I was a closet psychic for 30 some odd years of my life. Okay. I was teaching education in public school. I was a mom. I was on the soccer field. And then I would have ladies come to my home and I would read coffee grinds and do psychic readings. And my kids would run around upstairs or hide in their bedrooms until everybody left. And then I'd go back to work the next day and, be a teacher.
Well, it's good that, now there's a venue for children to open up and actually, be honest and not have to feel like they're the weirdo of the neighborhood or something.
Mm-hmm.
They're perfectly normal. That's great.
Yep, absolutely. We have a couple other questions here from the chat. Actually, our chat moderator, Alina, posted this before the show, or sent it to me before the show. It says, my question for Elly tonight. I've been seeing shadow people from as young as 3 years old. Does that indicate someone like me has psychic or intuitive abilities from birth?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So basically, yeah, you have the ability to see shadow people from the time that you were very small. Now, being able to see shadow people is not that it's not that it's uncommon, but not a lot of people have. I guess it is a little uncommon, or either that or people aren't talking about it. But I have found in my own experience that seeing shadow people is fairly rare. So it's very cool.
It's rare. Well, I see them a lot as well, by the way. And when you were talking about, before about, parents, affirming their children and encouraging them, that's what happened with my mother and I when I was about 13 years old, and we were just moving into a house, and I kept seeing a shadow there. It would just come to the doorway when I was like unpacking boxes and what have you, and it would just take off down the hall when I would turn and look at it. And so after a few days of that happening, I asked my mother about it, and she actually admitted that she had seen the same thing, but she wasn't alarmed about it. She was, it was great for me, for one, that she affirmed that it was happening, and that I was not crazy. And then also, since she wasn't alarmed by it, I wasn't alarmed by it either. And I just got playful with the thing, and I started calling him Tom, like peeping Tom, because he would just peep in my room and say, "Hi, Tom," and off he'd go.
It's interesting. So. Yeah, that's very cool. It's interesting. I don't know exactly why or how all this works. I don't research the paranormal phenomena like that. But when I was doing construction in my home prior to moving to Washington, we had shadow figures in the house, and we had really bizarre things going on. I never really got to the source of what was happening over there. I'd come home from work and the jacuzzi would start by itself when I would get into the room, and then call the contractor, shut it. Finally, I had to turn off the circuit breaker downstairs in the basement because it kept going on by itself. And then when we went to sell the house, the person who purchased it said, "Why is the circuit breaker off down in the basement for the jacuzzi?" I said, "Oh, yeah, so just don't want the kids to play with it during the day."
Right.
Good story. Yeah.
That's
I
really
wish I
funny.
had a ghost that would turn on a jacuzzi for me, but
Well, there was no water, Victoria, so it's not a cool thing.
Okay.
There
Well, that's
was
not
no
good.
water and it was on, right? And the contractors could not find anything, nor could the manufacturer of the product. And then that was the same time that we were seeing shadow figures in the rooms also. So it was really interesting to look at it as a phenomena again, like what was going on over here and what had gotten called in during the construction.
Oh, was it just that one home where you saw things, or has that been a lifelong thing?
No, it's been a lifelong, but this was the most prominent. This was the craziest that it ever was in my entire life. And it was only in one room. It was in the new construction, in the bedroom with the jacuzzi.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was really interesting.
Mike keeps blinking out. So
Yeah, I keep blinking, and actually the sound keeps going out on me too. But
I was going to ask if you could.
as long as you guys
still
stay
hear.
connected, we're good. So
You know what it is?
It's the energy, right? It's the energy because
it's the energy.
we
There
do
you
that.
go.
Absolutely.
It's Mercury. We got one more day.
There's that too. So from Judy Wilson, do you think psychic abilities can come from the family line?
Yes, and so I'm going to go to a yes and no on that one. And what I mean by that is the conversations are inherited. So if you have a psychic in your family, your kids are going to see, you're going to take, all right, I'm in my home. And so my kids hear this conversation for the most part all day long. My youngest son heard it all the time. Does he have abilities? Absolutely. Are they inherited or are they learned? Does it matter? So I believe that it could be a combination. Obviously, that it is, some of it is inherited. A lot of it is also learned. We hear these conversations. We inherit conversations.
I never thought of it that way, but that's true.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Back to the shadow people real quick. Jeanette Kemp. I wonder if sometimes when we see shadow figures, is more of our psychic abilities may not be developed enough to see them as their true form. So I guess the question then would be, if we want to see something more in its true form like that, should we do something to try to enhance our psychic abilities? Would that help?
We can. I do believe, though, that shadow figures are a type of entity as opposed to a different kind of ghost. All right. So I don't know if you're being able to develop your psychic abilities. And those are not the abilities that I'm talking about. When I'm talking about psychic abilities, I'm not talking about that. I'm pretty much talking about telepathy and remote viewing and mind power, reading somebody else's mind. That is more in terms of when I talk about psychic abilities, as opposed to distinguishing between a shadow figure and a ghost.
Are you back?
I got most of it.
It's kind of fun.
Yeah. It's been an adventure this evening. Yeah.
Okay. I forgot my question now.
So, well, Victoria, I know you had some astrology questions. You guys were talking a little bit about that before the show when I blue screened.
Which time?
Right, time.
Well, as you said earlier, we were having a little chat going this afternoon. Today and tomorrow, this is like the big deal. Can you tell us a little bit about that and the Pluto return and why we should hold on to our behinds?
Oh, again, so this is also very fascinating to me because it borders on a belief system also, okay? And meaning, do we give our power away to astrology? Do we use it as entertainment? Do we use it as a roadmap? So what will we do with astrology? Where does it fit into our lives? Will it be a doctrine that you're going to just believe and accept? Oh, let's use Mercury as an example. Mm-hmm. Mercury's retrograde. So now all my electronics are going to go bad and I'm not going to buy any electronics because they're going to go bad. It's going to be a bad deal. And so do we give our power to that? Do these things always happen anyway? These are just questions I'm posing. But now that we have our focus on it, like with the reticular activating system, if I say to you, okay, look for green cars. So now all you're going to see are green cars. So now during this time period, we're looking for technological glitches. Aren't they always present? Don't they always exist? So it would be an interesting phenomena to pay attention. Okay, you know what? From March 1st to March 30th, there's no Mercury retrograde. Let me see how many times I have electronic breakdowns. But then comes another aspect, which is the collective consciousness. We get to control things through the collective consciousness because we are all tapped into a universal collective consciousness. So, in quantum physics, if somebody particularly stares at an object, we can make that object go into that direction. This is proven. This is in the quantum field. So now if that's the case in the quantum field, what if a whole group, massive amounts of people are having conversations and belief systems that Mercury retrograde is going to affect all of their appliances? Well, then, you know what? There's a very, very strong chance that will happen.
Right. Well,
So,
I was mainly
I don't know if that answered your question about astrology. So,
I was mainly talking about the Pluto return for the United States.
Right. And that a lot of astrologers have been talking about and saying how this is going to create all kinds of problems. But then again, what chart are we using and where is this? What chart are they using? Are they using Washington, D.C. as their marker? And is this, is this going to be a Y2K thing? Remember, the computers all go down, Pluto returns,
They never really went down. What I was thinking, or what I've heard.
No, but everybody was scared of that.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
No, from what I've been hearing, and I've been kind of teasing Mike for the last couple of years that or so, that Pluto's going to return, and it's indicative of, in the past, of like empires crumbling, and
That's right.
Systems are changing. And then if you look at from like January 6th of last year, how many things have been shaken to the core, in our country. So yeah, there is going to be a change, and just the synchronicity of Pluto's return, if you want to call it that, with all these major changes, and we're moving into the Aquarian age. I just find that so fascinating. And like you and I were talking about, I'm not going to let it dictate my life, but I did move all my money out of the stock market just in time. But, and I found who the evil doer in the stock market was. So I put money on him, and I've made a lot of money here lately, but, so anyway,
so
it's weird. Yeah.
So I have a different, I also believe, this is my personal belief, that we're currently entering into what is known as an episteme, which is, according to the philosopher Michael Foucault, epistemes are cultural, scientific. These are big shifts in culture and in thinking. It affects culture and science, literature across the board, everything. And there have only been 3 of them so far in the history of Western civilization. And according to Foucault, we are entering into another episteme. We've been entering into it. So with the technology age. So this could all be combined or connected to the episteme as opposed to Pluto. It has a much more, let's call it a much more scientific root. And we can't see the episteme until after it happens. All right. So it may be called the new Earth when we're done, when the history books finish up with us, or it could be called big tech, or who knows, the meta universe for all we know. Okay. The metaverse, but we don't know this yet. And history will determine what this huge epoch will be called after it happens. So now, is this, connected to Pluto return? Not according to that premise. And I'm not looking to be a skeptic, but I do have a very skeptic, for somebody who's psychic. I have a very, I'm going to call it highly skeptical side to me about a lot of this. Not about.
I think it's good to have a healthy dose of skepticism in there.
Not about psychic work and our abilities, okay? Because that to me is that's real, okay? I mean, I've seen and I do, and so that's real. That is not I'm not a skeptic on that. Where I do become skeptical is about when we give our power away to people, to things, to situation, to phenomena, okay? And to really look to not take personal responsibility for something. It's like, oh, you know what? It's because I'm a Scorpio or something like that, and therefore my behavior is poor. Okay, no, that's just you blaming the astrology chart on your bad behavior.
Yeah, that's just a
trying to find a scapegoat.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
But I like to use it to kind of get a heads up, like, okay, well, maybe this is not the time I want to run for president or something. Not that I was going to run for president, but there's going to be some political shifts going on. Oh, I've got a free week coming up. Come on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's just the synchronicity and the coincidences that I've always been fascinated in.
Absolutely. And I agree. There is something there. I'm not going to say too, there's not. When we were looking at, I was doing some predictive astrology back in 2015. And the things that I was seeing, they would pretty much come to fruition. Again, the challenge is in the language, because
Right.
when we're working in any kind of prediction, I could see something, and this is again with the remote viewing, and that's why we pay careful attention not to label things. So I could see something that is round and has some stripes in it, and it's orange, and then my association to that would be, oh, pumpkin, but maybe it's a basketball. Or what if it's not even invented yet down the line, but it looks like a basketball or a pumpkin? So that is the danger when people go to the interpretations of these situations. So if we can only just leave it in the space of, this is what I see, boom, 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 without labeling it into that associative thought that we can understand, oh yeah. And then we leave it just as without the labels in the description, we'll have a much higher accuracy rate than when we start to put labels to it.
Right. We were discussing with a guest, I don't know if it was last week or the week before, because, time. But we were talking about dream interpretation and things. And I was saying how much I dislike the dream interpretation books because it's not cut and dry. It's what it means to you. So that could be possibly the same thing, like what your orange ball with the stripes, maybe it might mean one thing to you and totally something else to someone else. So just let it go, let it flow.
Are you talking about dream interpretation or prediction?
Yeah, same thing. Predictions, things that it's symbolic to you one way. Like, when you were talking about the orange ball, I was seeing a basketball and you said pumpkin. I'm like, okay, well, orange ball with stripes to me is a basketball. But it could be something different to everyone.
Yeah. And that's why we try, whenever I do psychic readings or intuitive readings, my phrase is always, don't be greater than God, meaning do not look to label it and to make it fit into what you know, because this could be something so different. And I remember when I was doing those predictions back in the day with astrology and just looking, I saw this really great big divide. Okay. And I saw people fighting in the streets, and I saw this really huge division. And I made the mistake of labeling it. And so I turned it into a generational thing. But later on, what fit my description was more of the violence that went on in Portland and in Seattle. That fit what I had seen, but I didn't. Now, I was so far out in my years. I was about 4 years ahead of time. And so my words and my description, what I saw, but what I verbally expressed matched what showed up now, but I didn't have an awareness of it back then.
Right. Okay.
I liked your example that, it may not even have been invented yet.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. So I guess kind of take it with a grain of salt. Okay, here's the image, but it could be a variety of different things.
Right.
But could you use that as, almost like a sign, maybe be on the lookout for something that might look like this,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't know exactly what that's going to be.
Right. And I usually thank Mike. I usually say to people when I'm doing a reading, just let's leave it open. All right. Let's leave it open.
Okay.
This is what I see. Let's leave it open. It will be revealed when the time is right. That thing, whatever that thing is that I'm seeing, that I'm describing to you, even though you may not know what it is, and I don't even have words for it, let's leave it open. It will be revealed. And
Great.
it usually
That's
is.
great advice.
Mhm.
Yeah. Another question here out of the chat, Sarah Youssef. Where do you see the evolution of global consciousness heading towards?
This is a great question, Sarah, and thanks for asking that. There are a lot of books have been written about this tipping point. Well, where I'm seeing global consciousness is that we're at the great divide. So where will we go? Which way will we go? Where will we be? I really feel on a personal, this is my personal opinion, I feel as if I'm not even on the same planet sometimes as the news. When I turn on the news and I watch what's going on, I feel as if I'm not even of that dimension, if that makes any sense, or of that planet. I have a really hard time relating to the things that are going on TV and even in politics and in our world. And the people that I associate with have that same experience that I have. It is as if we are of a different world. So if you want to think of the best way that I can describe it is if we're looking at socioeconomic classes, okay, a person who's flying around and jetting around in a jet or living in a mansion that they can't find the bathrooms because it's so big will have hardly any way of relating to somebody who may be living under the ground in a subway station. And so it's a whole different consciousness. And that's pretty much what I'm seeing happening here, but on a different level. It's not necessary. It's not socioeconomic this time. It's in the consciousness.
Okay. And when connecting,
did that make sense?
How do I? No, it makes sense. There's another direction I kind of want to take this in, because I'm thinking about, because I usually think beyond our planet, and I kind of start thinking about the rest of the universe. So is there a consciousness that extends beyond our planet to other civilizations that may be out there? Are we able to connect to them that way through this consciousness?
Absolutely. I mean, again, to think that we're all that is, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, the rest of the universe prior to Earth had another 9 billion years of a head start. So yeah, I kind of think there's something else out there.
Right.
Have you connected with anyone from another dimension or another planet, universe, galaxy?
I've had some experiences. I will tell you that what's interesting for me, Victoria, is when I do readings, I've noticed that the entities that come through for me in the readings are the entities that the client is associated with. So if I'm reading for somebody who has a more religious background, then entities such as Jesus and Mary and angels will appear in the reading. And then when I'm working with clients who are strongly connected to other worldly civilizations, I will see entities. I will get beautiful blue light beings that are just unbelievable with fabulous messages. And one time I'm just going to share a story real quickly, if I may. So I was reading for a client who was really ill, and I do not do medical. That's not my deal. I will never prescribe or tell anybody. But this information came through, Mike, Victoria, from this blue being. It sounds otherworldly. And I was told to tell the client to psychically mix blue and white, like a cobalt blue and a white light as an elixir through her body, and run that through her body as a healing fluid. And I mean, I couldn't make that up if I wanted to at that moment in time to tell her that. And she said, okay, she was going to go meditate with that and use that energy to help heal her body.
That's fascinating. Let me ask you this, Elly. So With some people, if they're getting that image of Jesus or Mary or whomever, some religious icon, and some people are getting, these other types of entities. Is it possible that it's really one and the same? It's all the same thing, but it takes on a different guise just to get the message across.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Good. Let me check through our chat room here. Victoria, I know you have some other things that you wanted to ask. Let me look through our chat room, see if we have some more questions down here, because we are getting down toward the end of the show here. So I want to make sure everybody has their
With the,
questions.
I'm sorry, with the blue light people, would that be like a vibrational type healing, or is it actual entity?
No, it was an entity. It was a blue being. Okay. And that's what I saw. I saw a blue being. And then the information was, can take this blue color, cobalt blue, and mix it together with a white light and run it as if, obviously in your imagination, run it through your veins, run it through as if it were blood, run it, and then have it heal.
Okay.
Kind of cool.
I don't want to ask, but I hope they got better. I mean, I know it's medical and personal, but I'm really interested now. So.
Well, I can say this to you: they're alive. Okay, that much.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Oh, that's so
And
interesting.
again, here's the thing: I don't do medical, but I was thinking to myself, you know what? I got that information, and I'm going to share it. And I'm going to use it too.
Why not? Yeah.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Okay, question here from Judy Wilson. Do you think we are becoming more psychic because of the times we are living in?
I think the conversation is more open. So yes, and there's more awareness to it. So we're paying attention. So we get to see it now. We're not shut down there. Think about it when I'm looking for words on this one. There's thinking aloud, and there's also forms of like not thinking when we don't. And I've seen this in education, for example, where kids do not want to think. They haven't been taught how to think. Okay. And why? Maybe it's cultural, maybe it's, from their homes, whatever, but there's an actual non-thinking that goes on. And it's hard to explain this to somebody who is coming from a background where thinking happens all the time. They're always thinking. It's an interesting phenomena. So I need to answer your question. I believe that the conversations are more open right now so that there is more thinking allowed, and that we have these conversations, which then allows us to develop our psychic abilities to another degree more so than before, because that thinking, that perception is allowed.
Why do you think there's a division now? I'm sorry, between the thinkers and, well, to use your phrase, those who don't like to think? Is it becoming like a Grand Canyon now, a bigger divide?
Oh, I don't. So I'm not in the classroom any longer, and so the kids that come to me they're thinkers, okay, because they come from parents who want to do this work. But when I was teaching in public school, there were many children that just came from. I can't explain it to you because it was just other than. Here's a question. I pose a question, blah, 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 blah. And then there's no thought to it. It's just, I don't know. So it's just, I don't know. And then there's the cognitive questioning. Oh, well, all right, let me go think about that possibility. Why could that be? All right. So, but it's just, I don't know, just shut down like that.
Yeah. I noticed that when my daughter was in elementary school, I volunteered to do, mom things, whatever you want, grade test papers. So that was the thing I did, was grade the English papers. And there was always this poor child whose name was, well, I don't want to say his name. Anyway, but, I followed him all through school, and he never could spell anything correctly. And they would always give him a D, even though, nothing, 0 out of 10, all wrong. But one day he spelled hamburger correctly, and I was like, is that just something, I don't know. I mean, it's just like, it boggled my mind how the little child cannot spell, and they kept passing him along and along. And I started realizing it was a cultural thing. I don't know. It was just weird. But then we moved to another school, and they had like a whole way of teaching that was totally different, and everybody was just a little brainiac. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just interesting because I guess also, the questions that you hear as a child when you have conversation at dinner tables and people are talking, hey, what's it going to take? What will I do? The moment you ask somebody, what's it going to take? The brain starts to work. But if we're not having these conversations, then what are we going to be doing? I don't know.
I heard you say something earlier. I was listening to one of your podcasts, and it struck me, and I was like, you're absolutely right. But we never forget what we hear.
Yeah, you can't unhear anything. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I mean, I still remember things from when I was a little kid. I'm like, oh, well, that's...
Yeah.
It's all stored up in there somewhere.
That's
right.
It's right over here.
So we have to be very, very careful with our words when we choose our words, especially when we're working with children. We have to be very conscious of the words that we're using.
Yeah. It was a strong message.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I've heard before that the mind doesn't ever really forget things. It's stored away way back in there. There'll be a trigger that all of a sudden you might remember things. Some people remember a lot more than others just on the surface, but every single little thing is supposed to be in there. You've done studies with the brain, with brainwave activity. So is that true?
Yes, it is. It's all stored there. And there are amazing, amazing books out there also, really that really have researched this in depth. Everything is in there. The subconscious is, just think about it. It's like a sponge. When children's brains are developing, their brains are sponges. Everything gets put in there. And then it is called upon later on, and the subconscious has stored it all. And it's the same thing with even just now with, we can only see in front of us, right? We don't see what's going on behind us consciously, but other parts of our body, other parts of our brain is picking up that consciousness, knows what's going on out there. That is why when you're being followed. How do you know? You don't see anybody back there, but you feel it, you know it, okay? So it's amazing there's so much more than what we see with our eyes, and our brain is registering all of that information for a future time, probably in your dream at night.
So more
right back
people
to the
from my
dreams.
yellow brick
Nice.
road. Oh, you were on my yellow brick road. Okay.
No, but that makes a lot of sense, though. All the senses are picking up on that, and I just heard Nicole back there in the kitchen a moment ago. So that's in there. Okay, Nicole made a sound while we were live, but which is fine. But while we're sleeping, though, even if it's not a dream in which we're witnessing whatever it is, our subconscious can still pick up on things that are going on within the room.
Yes.
Like if a sound is made, or somebody says something, or maybe you feel somebody come close to you.
Yeah. Haven't you ever had that experience where, let's say your alarm is ringing and you're still sleeping, but then that alarm is in your dream and something is happening in there?
Yeah.
So, yeah, we hear it. We hear everything.
Absolutely. No, the example I love giving is with my son Cameron. When he was very little and he would come up to the bed in the middle of the night, maybe he needed to use the restroom or needed to drink water, whatever it was, had a bad dream. And he would never, tap me on the shoulder or shake me awake or whatever. He would just stand there next to the bed. And all of a sudden, it's like I would feel his presence and be like, oh my gosh, Cameron, what are you doing? But it's like I just felt him there.
Yeah. Fascinating.
It really is. It really is.
He's going to grow up a shadow person.
He was. Well, and I use that as an example in some of my shadow person presentations. So, well, we have about a minute and a half left in the show, Elly. I want people to know where to find you. Let me put the banner back up here. I've been putting the banner up all night. ellymolina.com. I'll put this is for the Psi-Kids Academy. So how can people find you and your work?
Right there.
Yeah, right there. There it is.
Work with me. Yeah.
Google, there's enough on Google search. So if any search engine, just put in my name. I'm pretty much on social media. It's too late now.
Yeah, a little, but tomorrow, right? So, all right. Well, Elly, thank you so much for joining us this evening. This was really fascinating, and I hope people, got a lot of information out of this. I know I did.
Thank you.
I did.
And thank you so much for having me. It's been such fun, and I look forward to staying in touch with you and hearing all of the adventures that are coming down your rabbit hole.
Yeah, absolutely. Come travel with us.
I'd love to.
Right. Have a great night, Elly.
All right. Thank you so much.
Bye. Nice talking to you.
Bye. You too. Bye.
Bye-bye. All right, that was Elly Molina. So very, very interesting woman, and I love the work, or I love the fact that she is working with children that have these abilities, because I think that often gets overlooked. And we talked about it during the show, where a lot of parents, especially back in the day, where kids would be exhibiting some sort of ability, and they would just suppress it. So that's great that she's doing that work.
Yeah. She's moving humanity forward.
Absolutely. So,
Yes. Bravo.
all right. Yeah. So, Victoria, I didn't have a chance to tell you before Elly came on board, but what you and I were discussing before Elly joined our chat.
Before you
not
blue
making
screen?
that. Yeah, before blue screen. I'm not making that announcement just yet. So don't say.
So you're not telling anyone you won the lottery?
Not telling it. Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're going to give that a few weeks. So.
So I shouldn't have been running that banner on my Facebook page.
No. Why'd you do that? Okay.
Right. Nope.
So next week we have Leslie Mitchell Clark that's going to be joining us for past life regression.
Ooh.
Yeah. So I don't think we've talked past life regression since Ariana Corsino was on the show.
I do not think so.
Yeah.
But you are
that was a
correct.
good episode. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
When you and I
It was
both had a past life regression with her.
Yes. I apparently have had many past lives. More than I can. I only remember 9. I thought I was doing good with that. But yeah.
So, all right.
I'm looking forward to it. Should we get questions ready? Ooh, can she?
We should
hypnotize
get
us?
questions ready. Yep. So I'm going to pop up the participants tab. What?
It's going to lead to the Hollow Earth. That's all I'm saying.
That's right. Hollow Earth. Maybe that's you had a past. I think that's it. You had a past life in a cave underground.
I did. I fully
There you
admit
go.
that one.
All right.
Yeah.
You hung out
And
with
my
me,
uncle.
right?
Yeah,
Or maybe
and my
you were an
uncle.
ant person.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah. Fire ants. Plus my uncle, I told you about my uncle in the ice cutter, and he was down in Antarctica with the penguins.
Did yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we're going to be covering more on Antarctica here on Connecting the Universe here soon. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about are we from another universe? We're going to get into multiverse stuff, which I don't usually go multiverse, so this will be interesting.
Okay.
She's thinking about it.
No, I'm just seeing you like on 4 screens. Mike, what do you think? Well, I don't know. Mike, what do you?
Well, at least the video is working again now.
Yay. Because Mercury's going forward.
I ended up completely disconnecting the camera and plugging it back in.
It happens sometimes.
But yeah, I had the connection issues, and then the camera never picked back up after the connection issues. So
Yep. Even
All right.
Rob in the chat said Mike needs just to turn it off.
I saw
Turn it
him,
off.
and it's like, and he was saying, you should, he needs to refresh. And it's like, I had like 3 times by that
Hey.
point.
Hey, Rob's a friend of mine. He knows his technical stuff. So
I get it. No, and he said he's used 3 or 2, but I had by that point like 3 different times, and and restarted the software side of the camera, but I just ended up completely ripping it out of there. But
chicken foot. You just need a chicken.
yeah. So
But it
no,
works
it's
now.
what it is the little USB hub that I have. It just it does weird stuff. Like if I leave it plugged into my computer and I walk away from the computer, like there's a 50% chance that when my screensaver kicks on, that my computer will blue screen or reboot or whatever. And it's because of that USB hub. If I leave the USB hub out when I walk away. Doesn't happen. And this is like the second one I've had. I've been trying different brands and all that, but in any case, nobody wants to hear about the crazy technical stuff. Let's get to the shout outs. People want to get their shout outs in. So first of all, thank you, Alina, for moderating the chat. Always appreciated. Of course, we need to thank Diane Hilbert, Hunter Road Media's Fairy Queen. We have Helen Espinoza that's down there. Joy, thanks for joining us tonight. Mary Haygood, thank you as well. Fungi.
She's back.
She's back.
Yay.
She had posted something in there earlier about why she'd been away, but I didn't get a chance to read it because we were talking. So
in order to see the chat, I have to like put my face in the computer.
Yeah, I'd have to scroll way up if it's still there, because at some point it goes away. Of course, Sarah Yusuf, thank you for all your questions tonight. Stacy Comiskey, thank you for joining us as well. Tammy Heitzman, great to see you tonight. TFT Tarot for today and there. Thanks for joining us tonight. Ab Tillery, if you are lurking, put up your little eyes. So let me see who the participants may have missed. Alice Rhea, thank you for joining us tonight. Robert White. Yeah, Robert White was in the house. Great to see you, Robert. Been a while. Andrew and his trucking gnomes, of course.
And Rob Zip.
And Rob. Yep, there's Rob. Rob Zip. Thank you, Rob. Jeanette Kemp, member of the Connected Universe Portal. Great to see you, Jeanette. Let's see. Of course, Judy Wilson had some questions. So thank you, Judy. And all right. Let's scroll back down. So yeah, see, there's Diane. Great guest. Love the show. Awesome. Fungi threw up the eyes.
Woohoo!
All right. What's the card you're showing, Victoria?
Oh, that was for TFT for tarot. It was the Page of Cups.
Oops, there you go.
I'm still trying to figure out life. Oh, lucky! Oh, I haven't figured this out yet. Rebirth.
All right. Okay, everybody. We will see you next week again, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Tuesday night. Be talking past life regression tomorrow. Multiverse on connecting the universe. Let me throw the. There you go.
What if you have a
articles, videos, blogs, and interactive classes? Join the keepers of the Connected Universe at connecteduniverseportal.com.
What if you have a past life in a multiverse?
Yep.
Is that like a tree? Is it just branched out? Like a flow chart?
No, you can have a past life from another universe on another planet. Yeah. Yep. A lot of the work from if you read some of Dolores Cannon's work, she's interviewed, but she in her hypnosis sessions, there are people that had all kinds of really interesting visions of past lives, whether it was in another dimension or on another planet. A lot of times they describe having these different alien body parts. Of course, many of them were right here at Earth, but yeah, some of those are really interesting.
Wow. Okay.
It's possible. So, all right, everybody, you have a great night. We will see you next time.